When most people think of betrayal, they picture lies, cheating, or hidden truths that destroy trust. But betrayal wears many faces, and sometimes the cruelest kind has nothing to do with infidelity or money. Sometimes it's when someone ignores your boundaries, silences your pleas, and robs you of your sense of safety. My name is Emily Carter, and this is the story of how one man refused to listen when I begged him to stop, and how that moment forever changed the course of my life. It began 2 years ago in a quiet town just outside Portland, Oregon. My days were steady, uneventful, and truthfully lonely. I had just ended my marriage to Michael, my husband of 7 years. The divorce wasn't messy or dramatic. It felt more like a candle slowly burning down, sputtering until the flame finally drowned in its own wax. We argued over trivial things, drifted apart, and eventually admitted that we wanted different futures. Michael longed for the fast, relentless pace of New York City, while I craved the slower rhythm of Oregon. After we signed the papers, I moved back into the house I'd inherited from my parents after they passed. It was a simple 2-story place with a porch swing that squeaked each time the wind brushed it. I painted the walls, filled the garden with roses, and tried to convince myself this was a new beginning. But the nights told a different story, silent, heavy, and filled with the ache of everything I'd lost. That was when Jason Miller came back into my life. Jason wasn't a stranger. He had once been Michael's closest friend, though their bond had faded with time. He lived only a few streets away, a tall, magnetic man with a laugh that seemed to brighten whatever room he was in. He had this uncanny ability to make people feel like they were the only ones who mattered when he spoke. When Jason heard about my divorce, he began checking on me. He'd show up with groceries, repair things around the house, even mow the lawn. At first, I assumed he was simply being thoughtful, maybe out of pity, maybe because he was lonely too. But as the weeks slipped into months, his visits grew more frequent. He'd knock on my door at night, sometimes carrying dinner, other times just a bottle of wine and that easy smile. Slowly I let him in, not just into my home but into my life. We laughed over old stories, shared our fears, and confessed things we rarely told others. He spoke of failed relationships, his hunger for stability, and how he admired my ability to rebuild after everything I'd endured. Somehow, he made me feel stronger than I believed I was. But then the dynamic shifted. It started small, Jason's hand lingering on mine, standing a little too close, complimenting me in ways that went beyond friendship. I brushed it off at first, telling myself it was harmless. But deep down I knew. He wanted something more. One stormy night in November, it came to a head. He showed up at my door drenched, clutching an umbrella. "The power's out at my place," he said lightly. "Mind if I stay for a bit?" I hesitated, then nodded. A blackout felt less frightening with company. We lit candles, played old records, and talked until hours blurred. At some point, Jason leaned in, his hand brushing my cheek, his lips hovering far too close. My pulse raced, but I pulled away. "Jason, no," I whispered. "I can't." He froze, then chuckled softly. "I'm sorry. I got carried away. I thought that would be the end of it." It wasn't. In the days that followed, Jason kept testing the line. He'd make suggestive comments, try to kiss me, or find reasons to touch me. Every time I told him no. Every time he apologized. But the apologies were empty because the behavior never truly stopped. The breaking point came one evening when I finally confronted him. "Jason, this needs to stop," I said firmly. "You're crossing boundaries. It makes me uncomfortable. I care about our friendship, but it can't continue like this." His expression changed. The warmth drained from his eyes, replaced with something darker that unsettled me. "Emily," he said slowly, "I've been here for you when no one else was. I've done everything to make your life easier, and now you're telling me to back off." "Yes," I replied, my voice trembling. "Because I don't want this. Not from you." I begged him again and again, to stop pressuring me, to respect my words, to leave me alone if he couldn't. But Jason refused. He kept showing up, kept calling, kept pushing as though my boundaries were nothing but suggestions. It became suffocating. I couldn't sleep. Every knock on the door sent me into panic. I stopped answering the phone. My own house felt like a cage, and Jason was the guard who wouldn't let me breathe. One night, I broke down on the porch, tears streaming as I whispered to the darkness, "Why won't he listen? Why won't he stop?" That's when my neighbor, Sarah, appeared. She was older, gentle, with silver hair and kind eyes. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" she asked softly. And for the first time I told someone everything. Sarah listened without interrupting, then said words that stayed with me. "Emily, he's not your friend. Friends stop when you say stop. Friends don't cross that line. You need to take your power back." Her words sparked something in me. The next morning I called the police and filed a report. I told Jason plainly that if he ever came near me again, I would press charges. He laughed at first, called me dramatic. But when an officer showed up at his door to issue a warning, his laughter died. It didn't end immediately. Jason tried to twist things, sending letters, leaving gifts at my porch, but I refused to give in. I leaned on Sarah, on therapy, on a strength I hadn't known I carried. Months later, Jason vanished from my life. I don't know where he went, and I don't care. What mattered was this. I found my voice. I learned that pleading with someone isn't enough. Boundaries aren't suggestions. They must be enforced, even if it means shutting someone out entirely. Now, when I sit on that same creaking porch swing, roses blooming around me, I understand the truth. This isn't Jason's story. It's mine. It's the story of how I survived, how I fought back, and how I rebuilt my life. I begged him to stop, and he never did. But in the end, it wasn't about him stopping. It was about me. Me finally stopping the excuses, the forgiveness, the self-doubt. And I did.